Alright, I think we're rolling. Well, hey everybody, Sean Malloy coming to you from Patriot Landing, and I hope you're doing well. And this is behind the build of the Mathews 1776 edition Arc. Well, hey everybody, welcome to Patriot Landing, and I hope you're doing well. I'm excited to bring the build of this beautiful bow that's over here over my left shoulder, the Mathews 1776 edition Arc. And it's been a process to get this bow put together and to present it to the world, so to speak. And I just wanted to make a video to tell you about all the things that I went through to build this bow. I've never built a bow, but this is very similar to building a Jeep. And if you own a Jeep, you know what I'm talking about. You buy a stock Jeep and then you just make it your own by adding all these different parts that you can buy aftermarket. This was very similar to that in a lot of different ways, but Mathews announced this bow in April of 2026. And at that time, they were the only manufacturer that had recognized the event and announced they were putting out a bow. I think it was June that other manufacturers started putting out that they were going to build a bow too, and everybody had already seen the Mathews and were trying to one-up them. That's just the way I look at it. Mathews came with a pretty simple concept with the color scheme, and it allows for customization. Some of the other manufacturers, their bows are complete bows. There's really no customization you can do except add a rest, add a sight, and maybe change the strings out. But they didn't leave much to your imagination if you're trying to build something special. I look at this bow as not a hunting bow. I already own an Arc 30 that's in Kodiak Brown that I plan on hunting with this year. And so this is not going to be a primary hunting rig. It's truly going to be a museum piece and a conversation piece and an heirloom for my family down the road when I'm gone. So it was kind of a passion of the heart to build once I got started on it, and I did not know it was going to take a life of its own that it did. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the bow. So when the announcement came out, I reached out to Nate Buckner. He is a master bow technician and also a Mathews rep. And I asked him about the bow, and he said, yeah, he had heard about it and that they were going to give maybe up to 2 per bow shop. And that if I wanted to get in on that order, I needed to let him know as soon as possible. So I texted him back, said, well, let me think about it. And the more I thought about it, I was like, look, I live at a place called Patriot Landing, and I'm a Mathews guy. So there's no way I cannot have this 250th anniversary edition Mathews Arc. And so I texted him back and said, get me one on order. And that got the process going. The only thing we knew was that bow was going to come in before the 4th of July. And so in my mind, I was like, okay, I want to have this thing built by the 4th with everything I'm going to do with it. So we got it on order and then started the process of what you would want on a bow. You know, you need sight, you need a rest, you need stabilizers, you need quivers, you need arrows, all these things. And so I started looking on Mathews, and I was like, where is the accessories for the 1776 edition? And there were none. And reached out to Mathews, and they told us that they weren't going to make anything special. That a lot of people were using target bow parts and doing whatever. And I was a little disappointed in that. And I think Mathews could have done a better job in providing some Mathews branded 1776 stuff other than just the bow itself. So here I am, I've got a bow coming and there's no accessories for it. So how am I going to customize this bow to really make it something special? So got to thinking about it, and I was like, okay, well, I know I'm going to need a quiver, so we got to get that ordered, and I can maybe paint that to match the bow. So started looking around on eBay for that. I found a new one at a good price and had it shipped to me. At the same time, I'm looking for stabilizers. I already know what I'm running on my other arc, my Kodiak brown arc, so I know how many weights and all that stuff I needed. So instead of buying brand new stabilizers, I decided I'm going to buy used, and I'm going to have to paint them, so I don't mind if they're dinged up, scratched up, or whatever. And so I was able to find a couple good deals on a couple stabilizers, and they were missing parts and whatever, but I had other parts I could use, and got those in. And while those are coming, you know, all this is taking time. You know, it takes a week to find something, it takes a week to get something in. I'm starting to get on Canva and draw out some designs for the quiver. And the quiver, I felt like it needed to match the bow as far as the blue, but there's no red on this bow except for the strings. And I was like, okay, the quiver's got to have some red on it. So I did a couple designs, and the ultimate design that I have, as you see over my shoulder, is a two-tone blue on top, red on bottom. And I was like, that's going to set it off. And then the bracket that mounts to the bow that's attached to the quiver that's black, I can take that off and paint that red too. So that was my plan. So I got the quiver paint scheme figured out. Now it's time to find paint. So I called Mathews, and they graciously gave me the paint codes for the white and for the blue. And I needed the white because the weights that I was going to use on the stabilizers, some of them were going to be white. And they provided me those codes, and I was like, okay, I can just go and find some paint. Well, that is not that simple. Not that simple at all. The first thing I did when I got the paint codes is like, all right, maybe I can have this Cerakoted, and along with some of these other paint parts. And so I asked Nate if he knew of anybody that did Cerakote, and he mentioned a place called Maverick Gunworks right up the road from his place. So I went there and met Chris, and Chris is a Cerakote expert. You know, he Cerakotes custom guns and does all kinds of cool work. And I brought some parts in and said, hey, this is what I'm thinking about. Can you help me with this? And he's like, well, one, Cerakote codes don't match the codes that I had from Mathews. And he said, second, you can't Cerakote plastic. It tends, especially the kind of plastic that quiver's made of, that it will flex, and over time the Cerakote finish would fade off. Or not fade off, but flake off of it. So he said that's not an option for that, but he said he could do the other parts that I brought in. Because about that time, Dot Archery came out with their Proof 1776 edition for Mathews, and it had some gold accents on the sight. And I was like, all right, that'd be really cool to take some of these bolts and different parts of the bow and have them Cerakoted or painted to match that sight. So he said he could do those parts for me, and I was like, okay, well, let me look at my options. One of the options were to maybe have the quiver dipped. The other option was to paint it myself, which I ended up doing. And so I ended up looking around on the internet and found a company that can take your paint code and put it into an aerosol can and match it perfectly. And so they were able to match the white and the red, or excuse me, the white and the blue. But the red that I had wanted, they did not have in stock, but they looked through their files and they found something that the government uses when they need to paint something that matches the flag, red, white, and blue, which is perfect. So I said, let's order that. Well, this paint's not cheap. I think it's like $30 a can, and it takes a couple of weeks to produce. So we've gone from April, we're into May, and you know, May, all this stuff is starting to be ordered and coming in at the end of May. And I was, you know, the clock's ticking to 4th of July, right? So we're going to just continue on with the quiver and just kind of go in order here. So I get the quiver painted, and I'm looking at it, it's like it needs some flash to it. And up on top of the quiver is a an elongated oval, and I was like, that could be some writing, and I said, "We the People" would fit right on top of that. So I was like, okay, how do we get that on there? So again, the first thing I'm thinking of is maybe having it dipped and put on over top of the paint, having it stenciled, so buy some stencils and spray paint it, getting some sort of decals or something that could be put on there. And then the last thing that was on my list was somebody that could do calligraphy and actually hand paint it on there. So that was the spectrum that I was working on. The stencils was not a good idea, because if I messed that up, I just messed up this whole paint job. And I didn't want to have to go through that again, because it was kind of tedious with all the masking tape and that I had to use for the paint, and all the layers, because each layer had to put 4 layers of paint on 8 minutes apart, and then the paint had to cure for a whole week after I painted it, just so the gases could escape and that paint could really adhere. And before I painted that, I had to put a base, had to scuff it up and then put a base coat of this clear stuff that allows for paint to stick to it really well. So I had to learn painting. I mean, it was like an automotive class on painting using spray cans and spray paint. So I looked at maybe getting somebody to dip it, but there was nobody close by. I think the nearest person that could do any type of dip work was 2 to 3 hours away. And I knew this project, I needed to come in frequently, maybe talk to them and brainstorm on stuff. And just sending my stuff to somebody and not knowing when I'm going to get back was didn't make me feel good, and I didn't really have the time to drive back and forth to somebody's place. So that quickly became not an option. So decals is what I was looking at, and I looked at different companies, and the decals that I wanted, they couldn't make them as small as I needed, and they could not make them clear where the lettering would just stay and you peel it off like a transfer sticker. And so I was getting kind of discouraged, and I actually started looking for somebody that could do calligraphy. And about that time I came across Ninja Transfers. And man, I never talked to anybody at their company, but I was able to do everything in Canva to scale that I needed, upload it to their system, and they were able to provide me the decals or the transfer stickers at the right sizes and at the level of detail that I needed and wanted, and that was awesome. So I ordered some transfer stickers from them. Again, that takes another week for that stuff to come in. So now we're getting into the first part of June, and the clock is still ticking. So that's kind of where the quiver was. And to round out the quiver, I got this transfer stickers in. I was able to put the We the People on it, and then the 1776 with the 13 stars for the colonies on the quiver, as you may have seen in the video. But once I had all that on there, then I had to do the final coat, the protective coat that goes over top of it. And this stuff is called K2. It's a 2-part mix. It's all in one can, so when you get it, you shake it up for quite a bit of time, and then you pop the bottom, and it disperses a chemical into the paint. And that paint is a protector, and it also is a hardener. So you got to be real careful putting it on. And again, I'm getting a master class in spray painting. And I found a guy on the internet that paints guitars, and he was showing how he uses this product after he gets done doing all the graphics on the guitar, how he seals it and the whole process he goes through. And I was like, that's what I want to do, and that's what I did. By putting the stickers on first and then putting that on top of it, it put a protective layer over the transfer stickers, and it actually looks like they're dipped, because there's, I mean, you can rub your finger across it and there's no, you can't feel the transfer sticker at all, so it's pretty sweet. But that stuff, it takes 72 hours to dry, and when it fully dries, it hardens, and so it really protects the item that you do. So I was really happy with how the quiver turned out. Some other things I had to paint, parts of the quiver. Mathews, when they rolled out the bow, they had one harmonic stabilizer, it was brass, on the front of the bow. And so I was like, well, that's cool, but I'd like to have 2 more for the stabilizers. And so we reached out to Mathews directly, and they told me that they don't offer those, and they weren't going to. It's just a specialty item, and I was a little bummed about that because I didn't want to have brass on the front and then, you know, black stabilizers on the harmonic stabilizers and on the dampeners on the stabilizers. And so that kind of, again, it kind of irked me a little bit that Mathews didn't think through this build. I mean, it's a beautiful bow, but it needs more to make it what it could be. And this is just simple items I think they could have provided. So in the end, it kind of worked out that I didn't have those, because as I started looking at the stabilizers and planning those out, I wanted to do a red, white, and blue theme on them. So red on the end, white in the center, and then blue where the rod comes into the weight area. And then I also wanted to have some brass weights to accent between the blue and the red and the white. I ended up painting those items, you know, the red, the weights are painted white, and then the stabilizer arm where it links up, that's blue. And went through the same process at the same time that I did the quiver. So all these things were being done at the same time. And it had to be because the K2 stuff, which is like a $60 bottle, it's only good for 48 hours after you mix the chemicals. So you have to have everything in sequence ready to go, or you're just going to waste time and money. So that's what I did on the stabilizer, but then get into the harmonic dampener or stabilizer on the dampener there. I had a couple black ones, and I scuffed them up, and I went through the same paint process that I did with the quiver. Put a coat on there that allows for adherence of paint, and then I painted them blue. And then I used a white dampener behind it, so you had red, white, and blue on the very end, and then you had red, white, and blue on the whole bar, and then with gold accents in between. That was the plan. So painted those as well, took the stickers off the end, painted them. Turned out awesome, and I'm kind of glad I did it that way instead of having brass out there. It just has a little special touch to it. So during this time, I guess it was early May, Dialed Archery came out with the proof sight for the 1776 edition. So we're kind of going back in time, but I'll bring it back off forward here in a second. So I ordered that from one online bow shop. And I ordered it right away, and they were selling out, so glad I got one ordered. But weeks went by, nobody had any status. I emailed them, they just said, hey, they're being pushed out. I went on Facebook, and I went on the Dialed Archery site and asked them, hey, when they're coming out. And they showed pictures of them being assembled and all this stuff, and said they're going to be shipping out to dealers soon. And then I guess it was late, well, it was middle of June that they started popping up on Facebook at dealers. And I was like, well, shoot, the dealers are getting them, and I'm just an individual order one. You know, no telling when I'm going to get mine. And everything now is hinging on getting that sight, because I can't do the gold accent pieces until I have that sight to match. But I had a bunch of pictures of the sight. So I downloaded a bunch of them, and I took them to Chris over at Maverick Gunworks, and I was like, man, I think we can lean forward a little bit here and go ahead and do part of these metal parts off the bow, and maybe we'll get lucky and it'll all match. And so that's what we did. I paid him for that, and then just waiting on the sight to come in, as well as the other parts. I guess it was mid-June, they started popping up on Facebook, and I started calling people, these different bow shops that were getting them, and some of them had Picatinny mount, so they didn't have the Mathews. Then I found Brian with On Target Archery. He had just gotten a shipment in on Friday, and Friday night, I guess it was around 10 o'clock, I sent a private message. I didn't expect any response, but he responded back, said, yeah, I got some, call me tomorrow, and we'll hold one back for you. And so my plan was, if I can get one quicker, I'll order from him, and then when my other one comes in, I'll cancel that order and send it back. So talked to him on Saturday, told him what I was doing with this bow build, and I wanted FedEx 2-day delivery, and Monday he shipped it out, and Tuesday evening I got it. Monday, right after I got the shipping notice from him, I kid you not, I got a notice that my first order had shipped, and it would be there Thursday. So Brian's order would get there a couple days ahead of time, but I'd already decided that, you know, I'm going to send that one, the first one back, which I ultimately did. And the archery shop that I ordered from graciously took it back with no issue. So I didn't even open it. I just repackaged it and sent it back in with the paperwork that they needed. Wednesday, I'm standing tall in front of Chris. We got the site. We got all our parts. We're looking at the parts we did, and they did not match they didn't match at all. And they had a little too much red in them instead of gold. But, you know, we couldn't tell from the photos. The photos weren't, you know, they were just, that's just what happens when photos get put on the internet. They don't really match the color balance and stuff. So, we were on, and we were on for Thursday morning. So I was like, all right, I'm going to bring everything up here to you. And I had everything, and we took every bolt. I took every bolt I could take off of this bow by hand, and including off of the limb legs. I took every bolt, and I must have had, you know, 25, 26 pieces. And I wanted to do the limb bolts. Well, where are you going to get limb bolts? You know, but I needed the limb bolts taken out because I wanted to do the limb bolts and Cerakote them. And Mathews just doesn't sell limb bolts. I mean, who loses limb bolts, right? So Nate was able to call up there to Mathews and say, hey, this is what this guy's doing. Can you hook us up with some limb bolts? And they sold us some limb bolts and had them shipped, and that was great. And so they came in before the site came in. So I had everything ready for Chris when it was time to Cerakote. So get down there with Chris, and on Thursday morning we set up, and I'm filming him. I'm filming the whole process of him sandblasting, and then cleaning, and then prepping, and then he puts 2 different coats of paint on there. One is a black paint, that's the undercoat, and then the overcoat was the gold, and the gold matched perfectly. He'd already done some swatches when I'd left him the site on Wednesday, and man, it just couldn't have been better. And just to watch those pieces get painted was, I mean, it was just impressive. I mean, just to watch that transformation, and I knew how good it was going to look on this bow too, all those gold accents. We finished up. He's got an oven that he bakes this stuff in, so it's ready in a couple hours. So by the end of the day, I had all the parts. And so the next thing was, I got to get with Nate, and we've got to put these limb bolts in, and also we've got to do some string work. So that leads us to the next thing, which is strings. So I get with Nate, and I bring the bow in. It's got the sight on it, it's got the rest on it, and the rest it went with was QAD, and it matches the bow perfectly. We get there, and first thing we do is put the new limb bolts in. And I still had all the other bolts out, and or I had taken them off another bow and put just changed the bolts so I could have the ones being Cerakoted separate. So Nate hadn't seen the whole package yet, but he took the bow apart, and then we put the limb bolts in and put it back together. Once we had it together, then we talked about what we're going to do with the strings and the D-loop and all that. And we went through a couple iterations of strings, you know, where the blue, where the white was going to be, and he would put it on there, and I'd like it or not like it. And Nate, you're just so gracious, man. He just took the time to cut that stuff off and do what I wanted, and it just turned out great, and can't thank you enough for that. Once we get all that set, then we paper tune the bow real quick so that I know I could shoot it. So it's had about 6 arrows pushed through it, and it's shooting bullet holes. So now it's time to take all these parts and put them together. Now, the one thing we haven't talked about are arrows. Now we're going to go back in time and talk about arrows, because this is going to come into play when we're putting everything together. So when looking at this bow, you know, just having black carbon arrows on here was not an option. And I was like, this thing needs white arrows. And I was preparing to spray paint arrows. I went to Nate and said, hey, you know anybody that makes white arrows? And he said, well, Easton makes a white one, a 6.5 millimeter. I was like, show me. And he showed me. We ordered a half a dozen, and I said, I want brass inserts. I think we did 55 grain inserts. And then I want blue Knox, and he ordered those. And that was back in late May. And those came in. And when they came in, Easton's logo on there is orange. So it's like a white and orange bow or arrow. And I was like, well, that's not going to cut it on a red, white, and blue bow. So I looked at wrapping. Wrapping, that is putting a wrap over the logo. So I ordered some, I think they were 7-inch wraps. There might have been 6-inch from Boning white ones. And they came in and they matched the paint on that Easton arrow perfectly. So I was able to cover up that that logo, that Easton logo. Sorry, Easton. You guys make great arrows. You're the company I buy from anyway, but sorry I had to cover up your logo. And then I had Boning Alpha veins. That's what I hunt with, in red, white, and blue, ready to go. So I was able to put those on there, put the brass inserts in. I built my own arrows, so I put it all together. And then looking at that arrow, I was like, man, this just looks odd. It's just a real long, straight white shaft, and it needs some more color on it. So I went on a couple of sites and ordered some knot guards, aluminum knot guards to put in the back. And I'm like, all right, we're gonna get those Cerakoted too to match, so they're gonna be gold. And then it was, I need a label or something, logo to put on, and to put some color on this bow. And so I was like, all right, I want to do red, white, and blue on the bow, so we're going to do red, white, blue stripes, as you see behind me. So I started ordering. This is still in late May, and I'm ordering other colors of wraps, because again, on the computer, colors aren't necessarily what you're going to get. And so I ordered stuff off of eBay from different people, ordered them off from different bow shops. I must have ordered 6 or 8 different colors of red and blue, and none of them worked. They were either too dark, too light. They came in with a design on them that was not listed on the advertisement or whatever. They just weren't going to work. And then lo and behold, I found some guy who prints this stuff at home, puts them on on eBay, and they looked like the right colors, and I ordered them, and both the red and the blue were perfect. So they came in, got those on there, and then when I ordered from Ninja Graphics or Ninja Transfers additional 1776 with the stars on it, I'd ordered a bunch of extras of that in case I messed up on the quiver. But that allowed me to have something to wrap and put in between, and that's what I needed to set these arrows off. So now continuing on with talking about arrows, you know, broadhead selection is very important for this build. And so I was looking, all right, number one, we got to have an American manufacturer. And the first broadhead that popped into my mind that I really wanted to look at, because I've hunted bear with them, is Iron Will. And Iron Will, they have the unique ability on their broadheads to do laser engraving. And I was like, yep. And Iron Will just came out with their new SLR broadhead. It's a long range broadhead, and it is sharp looking. And it is literally sharp, I can tell you that. I was like, that's what I want. And the thing about the Iron Will broadheads is one screw, the whole thing comes apart. And I was like, we're going to do the ferrules and have those ferrules Cerakoted as well to match the gold accents. And we're going to have 1776 on one side of the broadhead and 2026 on the other, and it's just going to look fantastic. So I ordered those, I guess it was the first part of I think it was around the 10th of June. So now we're getting really close, and I'm just starting to think that we're not going to make the 4th of July deadline, and we didn't, just to be upfront about that. But I ordered those from Iron Will, and it took, I didn't get those broadheads in until after the 4th. The week after the 4th, everything was put together. I had everything but the broadheads, and it was time to do the assembly video, and the video itself was something that was very important to me, because I'd filmed all these different processes. I filmed the Cerakoting, I filmed Nate doing the string work, I filmed me painting, and I look like a rookie, but I had all this information, and I was going to, or all this video, and I was going to create a video of that process. But then I was like, you know, this as this thing started coming together, it really, it took a life of its own, and it needed its own presentation. And during the months of May and June, the other manufacturers started coming out with their 250th anniversary bows. And nothing against them, I'm all for that, and there were some, there are some great looking bows out there. I mean, the Hoyt is a good looking one, the Prime is an excellent one, and then there were bow manufacturers that did very limited runs, and then Bear even came out with one here recently that's, I'm not a traditional archer, but if I could have got one of those bows, I would probably buy one, because they're a sexy looking bow. But again, getting back to my first comments initially, everybody already seen what Mathews had done, so everybody was trying to one up everybody. And I was like, you know, their bows are nice, but their bows are not museum pieces. Their bows are, you can grab them and go hunting with them and scuff them up, and that'd be great. And there's nothing wrong with that. But this bow, I did not buy it to hunt with. I bought it for what it is today, and that's going to be a novelty piece for me, and then whoever after me. But I said it needed a different type of presentation. And then one night I just had an idea that I need to do a parody of the Declaration of Independence. And so I went on to Grok AI and told Grok what I was doing and what I'd done, and I said I want to do a parody of the Declaration of Independence, and this is the Declaration of the Mathews Arc 1776 edition. And it spit out an initial document for me to read, and I was like, that's pretty doggone good, but it reads kind of long. I said we need to cut it down to about three and a half minutes. And I went through 3 or 4 iterations with it and got the final version of it that's on the video, and I was just stoked. And if you haven't seen that video, you need to watch it, because it's I put a lot of time and effort into it. I got the voiceover done on. I have another program that I use that has AI voiceover, and I chose a British accent to read it, because that's how people spoke back in the day. And so I had the music, I had the voiceover, you know, with the Declaration, and so now I needed the video, and I was still struggling with the video, because the video of the assembly and everybody doing the work on it was not going to match that concept. And so I really wanted to make it a little more personal, in that it was going to be just the hands putting the items together on the bow. And I said, I'm pretty creative on some things, I guess, but I was like, I need somebody in a Revolutionary War uniform with white gloves putting this together. And one of the words in the Declaration that came out to me was the word solemn, and solemn assembly. And being military myself, I've been part of all kinds of ceremonies, and there were solemn ceremonies, white glove, and so I was like, this is the concept. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to find me a Revolutionary War costume, and I'm going to wear it, put this thing together, and film myself. And you know, looking at costumes, I mean, several $100s to buy a daggum costume that was authentic. Gloves were cheap. I could get gloves real easy. And then on eBay I came across this hoodie. And this hoodie is, from a distance, it has a 3D effect, and it looks like somebody wearing the top part of a Revolutionary War uniform. So I was like, that's what we're gonna do. So I bought the hoodie. It was only $19, and I bought a trifold hat and had that shipped in. And then I was like, okay, I set up the studio. I was gonna start assembling, and I went into it 15 minutes and said, this isn't gonna work. There's no way that I can film myself and get the angles and stuff that I need to show this video the way I wanted to present it. This is on a Friday. I figured that out on Friday afternoon. I'm like, who can I call that can come down here and let me film them putting this on, or putting this stuff together? And I've got, I work for a real estate brokerage, and I'm the broker in charge, and I've got a couple agents, and almost everybody on staff is a hunter, and several of them bow hunt. And Brennan Kirby, he's one of my new agents. I called him up, said, Brennan, what are you doing Saturday morning, buddy? He's like, I don't have any plans. And I told him what I was doing, and he was all in. So Brennan showed up. Brennan bow hunts. He's never taken a bow apart. He's never put one together except for just a little bit of stuff. And but he knew his way around a bow. And we put him in the costume, and then that allowed me to film all the angles that I needed to get, and it just turned out fantastic. During the shoot, again, I did not have the broadheads yet, and so we weren't able to do any of the arrow part of it. But I said, well, I can set that up and film myself putting the arrows together afterwards, which is what I did. So I was Brennan's stand-in, his hand double, shall we say, since he was the primary actor. So I did that the following week when I did get the broadheads in from Iron Will. The whole concept that I had from the beginning of the video to the end of it was to make it look old as much as I could in the beginning, and then go to modern. So it needed to start out in black and white and then go to color. And you know, they didn't have cameras and any of that stuff back in the 17th century. So I could just make it as old as I could make it, and then just kind of weave it in. And I think it just turned out really, really good, very tastefully done, a very solemn build, and then finished it off with, you get out of that video and you wait 1 second, now you're getting the professional photos that I did on the pieces. And I just can't tell you how proud I am of how it turned out. It looks great here in the studio, but I'm telling you, I can send you pictures of it looking like this, turn it around and give you full-size pictures, but until you actually get this thing in your hand and walk outside and let the sunlight hit it, you just can't understand how beautiful this bow is. It just pops in your hand. I mean, you just sit there and want to stare at it from all different angles. It is, to me, it's that impressive. We finished, I think it was, what's today, the 19th? I think I filmed it on the 12th. I believe that's when I filmed it, and then the 16th is when I finished the entire video. So we missed our 4th of July deadline, but we were able to get it out in the month of July. So I'm happy with that. And I wanted to do this behind the build because I want people to know this was just not buy the bow and buy stuff off the shelf and put it on here. There's a lot of thought that went into it. There's a lot of coordination. There were a lot of other hands and brains that were involved in helping me see my vision come to fruition. You know, everybody from Mathews to the different bow shops that helped me, to Nate, to Chris, you know, to Brennan, just all those people. I couldn't have done it without them. And you know, big thank you to everybody that was involved. And I've taken the bow and shown them the video. They got a preview of the video before it's gone live, and let them hold the bow and put it in their hands and just see something they were a part of. I think what I'm going to do with the video of their hands on the bow and doing their thing, I will make those into YouTube shorts of some sort and show their craftsmanship, because they really knew what they were doing and helped me go next level with this bow. So that's the build with all the drama and the satisfaction that has come with it. And I hope it maybe inspired some people to, maybe if you own a you know, a 1776 Mathews Arc limited edition and you want to do something like this with your bow, I'd be more than happy to share what I've learned and tell you how I did stuff, and then maybe you can go and you know, pimp yours out as you see fit. But I just wanted to say hats off to Mathews for taking the lead and recognizing this important milestone in our nation's history, and really creating a classy bow that allows for customization. And that being said, Mathews, I wish you would have come out with some stuff that I didn't have to do all this work, man. It would have been it'd been a little more, it probably wouldn't be as rewarding, but it would have been less drama. Let's just put it that way. But I thank you for watching, and I appreciate you joining me here at Patriot Landing. And as usual, I'll see you in the field, and stand by, because I am going to hunt with this bow the week of Veterans Day in November. And I am going to wear that hoodie and that trifold hat as a tribute to our nation's 250th anniversary. And my goal is to harvest a whitetail. So stay tuned, that is going to happen. And all I can tell you is the whitetails are coming. And it's going to be exciting. I'm excited. So thanks for joining me here at Patriot Landing. As usual, I'll see you in the field, and we'll be chasing some critters here soon. We'll see you.